and how we can actually handle exception using try catch, like what are nested exceptions, right? What is finally, and what are the different levels where you can actually handle exception basic, right? And what exactly is the way how to handle other things in catch over here and all this thing. So today we see a step ahead. So in try catch finally, right? You can have one try and one finally, but you can have multiple catch statements here, right? Which means if you go to the combination, right, you can have following combinations for inexorable handling. You can have one try, catch. You can have try, catch, and finally, right? You can have try, multiple catches. You can have try, multiple catches, and one finally, right? Or you can have try and finally. So these are different possibilities which we have in here. So let's see the try catch and try catch finally we have already seen. Let's see the multiple try catch one. So when we are talking about multiple catch, which means why do we mainly, if we already have a catch statement, right, why do we need to have different, why do we need a support of multiple catches? The reason is sometimes you may have to go handling an exception more specifically. Like let's say if you're getting some arithmetic error or index out of bounds error, right, you may want to do something. Right? So let's take the example here itself. So till now we were using single catch statement with the exception class, and exception class is parent of all other classes, right? And that's the reason why whatever exception happens, this exception class is capable of handling all those, because it is a parent and all other exception classes are child. Now, if whenever you say we are trying to handle multiple catches, which means we are trying to go to specific exception class and retrieve the data. Now let's see how we can actually create multiple exceptions. So here, let me create a new try. Let me show you the actual syntax, right? And you can have a catch. So here, what I'm going to do, let's say I'm going to use, let's say, arithmetic exception. Now, arithmetic exception is like, whenever you have divisions or whatever you get based on arithmetics, right? That all comes under arithmetic exception, let's say, right? Now here you have arithmetic exception. Let me take it as A. Now this is one catch which is specific to arithmetic. So I've actually done this because let's say if I'm taking root some L is equal to some 20 divided by 0. Now this is where an exception happens, which is which may give you infinite error. Now, if you intentionally do 0, obviously it will give. You can say that it divides by constant 0, but let us make it I. I in the sense I is a variable, and variable can change, right? But I'm assuming I value is 0. Now this is where I will get an exception called arithmetic exception. So here let me just print data exception dot write line of let's say and then exception is message. This is a message engine. The same way I can have multi catches, which means I can write like this. So let's say here I have array or let's say index out of the exception. Let's say IOR or IOE, some variable. Now this is how you can define multiple catches. Now index out of array exception, which means I may get something here which may give index out of exception. Let's say this I am taking it here, which is directly right, like this. So here let's say I'm giving some 22, which means I may get index out of array because my size of a array is 4, but I'm actually trying to access my 22nd value. So let's bring that message here. Let me call it as and then so here let me just say index out of, right? So same way we can have multiple exceptions. You have, let's say you have something called ECPL or null pointer exception, null reference exception. Whenever you are trying to convert a null to string or anything, it may be null exception that we call as null exception. Right? So in this way, you can actually create multiple catches if you know specific error. Now these classes will actually get to know when you have a whatever operation action. So after all these, right, try to create catch for main exception class, right? So that if you miss any of these catches, now how it works is with respect to exception, right? Exception type try catches, right? Now that exception block will be executed. I'll show you. So here let me just say exception curl, right? I'm reading this one message. Now this is how I can have one try and multiple catches. So here you can see that, and after this let me say return. I don't want to create details. So let my program will run till here and it will exit, right? Now here let me run this program and show you how it works. Let me debug this and show you. So here you can see that my I'm actually trying to get exception of 22, which the value 23rd value name, but which doesn't exist at all. When I run this, see what happens. Immediately it will go to the corresponding exception. Index out of range exception, because I know that it may happen that when a person may call the value which doesn't exist. Then you can see it will actually give me index out of exception. So here let me slide this right, I'm writing it down. You can see index out of exception happen. So if one catch is executed, then that's it. It will run out of my try. At least one catch will be executed if you have a matching. Now this time, let's say I'm going to take 0 here, which means I am not getting any index out of each because I have a value at 0 index. But you can see my I value becomes 0. Now what is happening here? If you give me some argument exception, now you can see immediately it comes to argument. Now once it prints, it will go out. Now you can see arithmetic exception. Right? So this is how exception occurs whenever we have. So let's take one more example. Let's say 4, and I'm gonna do int u is equal to 2. So that means string value, string some h is equal to string, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to parse h. So this is something which is weird. Okay. So here I will use it. So now what I am doing is I am not creating any array index or arithmetic exception, rather. So this is something which is like that. Now you can see if nothing matches, right, then it will go to your main exception. Now you can see format exception. Now this is how you can get a classes. There is a thing called format exception was called, and it says input string was not in correct format, right? As no catch was matching, right? So that's the reason why it's very important to have even the main parent class called exception, so that if nothing matches, it will come to your parent exception, right? And there is one more thing: you should not have this catch at the top. I mean, what I mean is, if you have this catch at first, right? Now you can see it will give error. It says always your exception will be executed. It will actually go by step by step. It is like a switch case, right? So it will actually check each and every exception and it will directly move the pointer to that. But if you're using parent exception at the top itself, then your child will never be called, right? So that's the reason why your child exceptions should be called first and then the parent. Right? Let's see. I know that there can be a format exception. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to handle format exception itself. Right? Multiple catch. So here what I'll do, I'll print format exception. F3. So now let's see what happens when we run this. So the exception happens, now you can see it will directly go to format exception. Now this is how we can have a multiple catches for one try. Right? So that is the case where we have seen multi-catch for one try. And again you can have multi-catch with one finally set. So here you have multiple catches. So once all the last catch block is done, right? Then you can have one time where you actually doing something. So let me bring here that console.write. So even if any exception happens or not, doesn't matter. Your finally block will be called for sure. As you can see, there is a final format exception but final block. Now this is how we can write one try with multiple catches and a final. So your finally and try will be you can declare only once for one try, but you can have multiple catches. And even in multiple catches, you have a rule that all your child exception type should be at the top, and your parent exception should be declared towards the end. Right? Because if your child exception class is not triggered, then it will go to your parent or at least. And make sure you are defining your main catch, which is a parent class catch block for sure, once everything is done, so that you won't skip any other exception. So this is about multiple catches which we have here. And let's see the last one, which is try find. Let me show you that try. Now you can see we can also have try without catch and find. What does it mean? Exception will happen, but I am not handling that exception, and immediately I am giving some finally. That's it. That is the meaning of this. One try can have one finally without a catch statement. So that is the last one. Try and simple find. See what happens if I don't use I for simple. Let's say I'm going to use I. Now, which means I'm actually creating some executor, right? And let me say here that let's say it's return, and let me try to make a line. Right, you can see here we directly we got an exception, but there is no handling, right? There is read line and return, so that we have this program. So this is finally you can see, and again you got an exception here, and this exception was asynchronous, so that's the reason why we got it attempted to do equal 0, and it was not being cached. We are not actually caching it, right? And then it says this finally block. So this is my last try finally which I have, right? Which is my main. Right. So this is finally, and then exception happens, and this is a finally block which for exception. Now this is how we normally create or handle exceptions in our document. Right? Any questions till now? We complete. So let's go a step ahead now. So here, so this is something where we have seen a single level of exception handling, right? Now let's go ahead and see something where You can create exception handling for your calling methods or your child methods too. So let me create a new class and show you what exactly I'm talking about. So let me call it as my class. Let me say here my class. And let me create one more method, one more class, and let me call it as my class 2. So my class, let's say, accept the green class, and I'm going to create a static void method. Right? And in my class 2, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a simple method void, let's say, print data. Right? And what I'm going to do is let me say divided by, let's say, B, and B I'm going to get it from here. So this is what I'm doing from here. What I will do is I'll add my try catch here, and I'm going to run in my exception field. Let's say I'm going to run and what I'm going to create is I'm going to actually call so here what I'm going to do, I'm going to actually add my class object, which is my class 2 obj is equal to, and I'm going to call something called print data with some stuff. Now here you can see what I'm doing is I'm actually passing a value 0 here, which may create an error. Right? Now when I come back to my class 2, now here you can see I am not handling any exception here. Right? But there is a chance that your fatal error can happen. So I'm going to print the value of that. Let's say value plus. So if you are passing the right value, right? So let's run this. After this try and catch and everything, something. Let's run this. So now you can see value is 11, so and so, and then we got here in output 11, and then which is waiting for our key. Now here you can see that we didn't receive any, or we haven't, got any error, and everything went smooth. So let's say I'm going to pass 0 here. Now here I'm not handling anything. Right? So let's see what happens. So let me just put a breakpoint here. So here we got a B as 0, and you can see I got a 0. Now exception will happen here. Now whenever exception happens here, let me go to the next statement. You can see immediately your parent method catch will be triggered. Why? Because your try here can go to any dealer. Now this try, whenever you start try, right? Now this will go into, the handler tracking will start, and this tracking will actually go to the methods whatever you are calling. Let's say in print data we have method calling. Sorry, and you are calling a method, and inside there is no exception handling, but you got an exception, which means this tracker will be still working, and whenever any exception happens, this will be immediately caught directly. Which means if you have any other statements, in this method or even here, right, they will not be executed. See here, let's say after this print data, I have one more statement called control line as back to main. And this is a statement, right? See what happens. So whenever you run this, immediately you can. Now in your print data, whatever statements you have after the line, after the statement exception happen, those statements will not be executed, and even in your main will not be executed. And this is how your main catch method, which is in your caller method. Now this is called as a calling method, and this is your child method, which is called. This is how it is, which is called, right? And it will actually show the exceptions. Right? Now, if you have one more class, So let me call it as my class 3. So here what I'm going to do is I'm going to write this data, and let's say I'm going to use some int array. So O is equal to I. So I'm trying to get something, and then let's say I want to print. And so this is my one more class with one more method I've created. Now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to create that or call that here. Let me call object of my class 3 and call that method obj dot get it dot that is 0. And then I don't need so I'm just calling. So and then I will create a console. I make one statement to see whether this statement executes or not. So this is right. So here what is happening? So let's say I'm not going to create any exception in my second class. Right? In my class 2 I'm passing the value 2. So it will come to here, so no exception happens here, it will go fine, and in my class 3 I will come get data, go to this. Now here in get data, what is happening? I have an integer array, right, and I'm trying to call an array which is out of index. So let's see how it is. So let's put a breakpoint here. Now here I have an object created, go to that method, now no exception happens. I have my class 3, do that method, now you can see an exception happens here. Now you can see again it will come back to the main column. Now which means if you don't handle exceptions, right, inside your calling, inside your child methods, sometimes you don't have to, because you know, every method you are writing, right, you have to actually think of whether you handle exception in that class or not. It's very important. Right? Sometimes you may want to handle all exceptions in your method itself, right? Then obviously you have to go ahead with that option, right? So here you can see again I got an exception, and now this time I'll get something called index out of, right? I got this. I can see value 11. Now this is my first method, my class 1's output, and then I got in my class 3 I got this. Now this is how our exceptions are actually done. Right. Now what is the immediate reaction what we can do? Either if you want to suppress this, right, what you can do, you can handle an exception here. Right. So what I will do is I will actually make all this code within try cache, right? And here I will do something called exception in my class 3. Now what is happening? Let's see what happens here. So we got an this is my second, go to third. Now your exception will happen when it will immediately call here. Now see what happens. My exception here will be printed. It will come get back. Now you can see in my class 2 the sequence will continue. But in my previous case what happened? Everything got skipped. If any exception happens, everything got skipped. But here again each and every statement got executed. But in my class 3 there was an error. Now that's how you can actually handle your error in a specific way. If you want, yes, you can actually go ahead with try catch there, which means you are actually suppressing your error here itself. You're not moving ahead. If not, you are actually you're not handling it and that's one step. Second thing is, even if you're handling try catch, let's say you are using something called through. So whenever you create any, let's say I'm throwing E, which means I'm actually whatever exception I'm getting, I'm throwing it. Where am I throwing it? Now, if you actually see the default syntax of try catch, right, it will be throw, which means if any exception happens, throw it to the mother or calling method. Let me run this and show you what happens here. So here I'm not running. See, immediately you'll get an exception to you. Let me run it again and show you from there. So here I'm going to my class 2, everything went fine. I'm going to third class. An exception happened, I got it here, and I'm saying industry throw it. I'm handling it and I'm throwing, which means when I say throw, it will again go back to my calling method and it will assign that exception object over here. Now this is what is happening. Index out of one array is something which I got it from the object I'm using there. Right? So this is how we can have a nested, internal class. If you get any error, it will be automatically assigned back to your mother calling method. And here you can actually add the. Now this is where we have an exception and we call. Now this is how the try catch handle works, and you can go as deep methods as you can, and even if you are using any third party libraries, right? If you are using any other cross library, we have already seen an example of cross library, right? So if you are using that cross library, yes, you can always throw, and your try catch will also work internal to cross library. Your cross library, if you have a method where you are not handling any error, right, and one of the method of that library you are using in our main program, and in main program, let's say you started try catch, then what happens? The method which is declared internal to your library will have an handler check through this try catch. Now that's how it works. Fine. So that is how it is going to work, and even your libraries or third party or third party, when it's a third party, right? The program which is written in .NET and provided as a library. And you may also create a library and use it in somewhere else where you are actually providing your try catch handling your purpose methods. Right? And normally, when we run these throws are whenever we create any common code for or a common library, right, we normally write this because we are creating some error. If there is any error, then we are doing some operation, right? Why do you do this? To do some operation, if there is an exception, I can just say O is 90 and just right, and do some operation and then throw. Why I'm throwing? Because I'm interested in my class library. If any exception happens, then I'm interested to actually handle it. Right? So that is the reason why I normally go ahead with throw option here.